Welcome back to Little Birdie. You can find us on Twitter at Little Birdie Pod or www.littlebirdie.pod.com. This show is a unique look into the world of sport and racing from a betting point of view. We're here to tell it like it is. We fear no one. We are proudly brought to you by topsport.com.au and powered by puntingform.com.au. Enjoy at your own leisure. Scooty, how are you, big boy?
Mate, I'm a lot better than last week. To say that we came in a little bit rattled is an understatement. We're lucky to get here, really, and it was lucky to get the first show on the road.
We'll favourite to miss the first ever show at 7:30 on the Wednesday night there in beautiful Launceston, as Australia's oldest and most reliable airline, Qantas, decided to just pen our flight just at 7:30. What was it, a 7 a.m. flight the next morning?
Well, there was probably just 12 hours of bad variance. I call bad variance bad VAR in my chat groups. But
Tuesday was outstanding.
Launceston's a great place. Launceston Cup,
an outstanding deck.
It's just a brilliant place, and Tas Racing did a great job of looking after us down there.
You did have a bit of bad VAR though on the first hole. Let's not forget.
Let's not talk about golf. We'll just stick to
you were up and about. You were ready to sort of put on a bit of a clinic there at Barnbugle, and then all of a sudden he found the greenside bunker there on the first and had about 25 out of it. It was over. But we bounced back from that. We enjoyed ourselves. Had a few pots after a beautiful round of golf there at Barnbugle. Back into Launceston, Calcutta. Outstanding night. Met some people. Good times. Woke up Wednesday morning. What happened?
Wednesday morning, we did some radio. Then
in the rain.
The races were good. The track was a little bit off. We missed the winner of the Cup. We saw Gay Waterhouse. She bought a $2.95 poncho.
Disgusting.
The local outfitters were headless, that they didn't get the Dreiserbone sale out of her at $250.
Think about that. Just think about that for a minute, for a bad beat for them. You're running a sort of clothing operation there in Launceston, not a lot doing. All of a sudden, in walks the First Lady of Racing.
And you think you're going to get her for $100 at least.
$1,500, I'd say. She walks out with a $2.50 poncho.
It was $2.95, so they've got her a little bit there. But the variance started to kick in about 7 o'clock. Qantas text, they've cancelled the flight at 6:30. Obviously, we have to put Little Birdie to air the next day. Webjet rebook us on Qantas, a Qantas link flight out of Devonport. Right?
I'd call that a light. It was a light plane.
So all of a sudden, we're back. So we're $1.10 to miss.
Half back. We had to get up at 4:30 and drive the hire car to Devonport, which I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, well, and it turns out we're in a thrifty hire car, and there's no thrifty hire car in Devonport Airport. So what do you do with a thrifty hire car? Well, the next best thing to thrifty is probably Avis. So we decided to park in the Avis car lot and then chuck the keys in the Avis box. And, you know, it's not a big place, Launceston, so you'd think that Avis would talk to thrifty and they'd scratch their back. But no. We jump on the plane, think the problem's solved, forget to call thrifty. We've dumped the car there. And then what happens? I think I'm sweet because I'm back in Melbourne. I'm back on the mainland. Everything's great. Walking Little Birdie. Phone rings after we record the show. Well, hey, mate, we've had to tow the car back to Launceston Airport.
400 jumps out.
400 jumps out. So thinking, oh, yeah, this is great.
Hot go.
Very hot go. And then the next thing is the windscreen's damaged. It's cracked.
Which is just completely and utterly outrageous behaviour from thrifty.
That's the bad bit.
When we drove to Barnbugle and back, I'd never seen more roadkill in my life.
No.
And I was very alert because of the roadkill. And if you've ever been in a car with this bloke, it's scary behaviour. He thinks he's Craig Lowndes driving around Bathurst, and he's not.
Anyway, a long story.
We would have seen the cracked windscreen if it was there.
Anyway, after about 18,000 phone calls with Anne from Launceston Thrifty, she's managed to waiver the damage. I don't know if it's because we've got a radio show, but if you are going to hire a car, make sure you hire it at Thrifty down in Launceston, but do not drop it back at Devonport Airport. That is a big, big no-no. Okay, let's cut the dribble and let's get into serious matters. We've got a special guest in here today. We've got the understudy of our AFL genius, Cam Dean here. These guys, well, you'd all know Cam from episode 1. He declared Victoria at 7.5 in the Origin game and thought they were a bet at 40 plus also, but he was a little bit worried that they'd take the foot off the pedal. They've ended up beating the All-Stars by 48 points. So feather in the cap and a little bit of cred, early street cred for Cam Dean, and we welcome.
Big start.
Yes.
We welcome his.
You didn't like it either, did you, Scoot?
No, I did.
You were anti-40 plus?
Yeah, I was anti-40 plus.
Yeah.
I was too conservative.
Yeah.
Oh, fair call. It's margin betting in a charity game is a bit.
Yeah.
It's a bit how you're going, isn't it?
It's a bit sick. He landed it, so play on.
Okay, and his sidekick here is Ian Dowson from the Barefoot Punter. These guys have got a podcast and they dribble for 40 minutes every week in AFL season about football. Guys, how did it come about?
Yeah, thanks for having us, Scoot. Good to be here. Cam and I have been friends for a long time, and obviously I know Cam's been in the game for a long time as well. And I guess growing up in Victoria, Melbourne, you love your footy, and most red-blooded males love to have a punt as well, and I was definitely one of those. And Cam and I started spending a lot of time together probably 5 or 6 years ago in the car, going down on surf trips and so forth, and just took the opportunity to learn more about the game and started to get myself to being a solid punter myself. I'm by no means a professional. I'm just your average guy who likes to have a go at it. But now I'm starting to get to the stage where I can go on an overseas holiday courtesy of a couple of our market providers, which is nice a year, and just wanted to maybe share that journey with others. So Cam and I started up a podcast last year called The Barefoot Punter, and it was just about that, I guess, just trying to help educate the punters out there on the weekends to maybe do a bit better on the footy.
So the podcast is essentially like a seasoned, hardened veteran and a man trying to take his passion and turn it into a sustainable income.
Not for
journey.
me. Not for me, a sustainable income. Just something on the side. But yeah.
Let's just help the average punter make some money. And I think, as Ian's been a bit humble there, he's turned himself into a profitable punter over the journey. He might not make it his full-time profession, but he's got himself to a place now where he can make a decent enough money to afford the odd trip overseas and help him along the way, and he has a great time doing it.
But so he's at this stage, he's not yet at the 3 weeks at Coachella level, like the master, but that's the goal.
Yeah, not quite there yet, but that's another story, I think.
I think there's a lot of stories we're going to get to over time with Cam. He's a little operator, isn't he? Good-looking young man, the rooster.
Okay, so Master and Apprentice, Cam, year one, how would you mark Ian's report card after year one? Out of 10, maybe he started at a 2 as a punter.
Yeah.
What would he finish the year at? And has he got a little bit of scope to improve?
Yeah, he's definitely the 6.5 to 7 range, but he's learning a lot. Yeah, he's going very well, and he picks up things. I learn things off him that I don't see myself.
He's very humble. Okay, let's get into the serious business. The Marsh Cup form, what does it mean? Does it mean anything?
What a question, straight off the bat. Marsh Cup punting on its own is, I just want to touch on that a little bit. The thing that you want to look at when you're backing a Marsh Cup team is, do they have extra motivation? So most Marsh Cup games I don't want to touch, but then there's sometimes some things like St Kilda playing their first game at Moorabbin in 20 years. They're going to be right up for it. Gold Coast playing Geelong. They're the team that wants to win. So the Marsh Cup, that's motivation is key. Can you take anything out of that when these teams are winning? Yes and no. You can probably, individual players are the things that you want to see. If you see big improvement in individual players, then you can see that they will help that team along the journey. But as a collective, I don't take too much out of how the teams are going myself.
And then so Richmond-Collingwood, the match itself?
Yeah.
Anything out of there?
Nothing.
Nothing out of that,
Nothing.
So we can just scratch that performance. Okay.
Probably the only thing is your man DeGoey is playing early, so that's a good sign. He's fit. He's coming along. This he might be playing some midfield come, proper season. So that's probably the one thing I could take out of that game.
Yeah, we ran a little poll at Little Birdie Pod, and just to see who the fans would want, whether they want DeGoey or Petrarca, and I think it was 86 or 90% DeGoey. So, and I think there was one tweet in there that said anyone that's had voted Petrarca needs to be committed or something along those lines, which I think it's absolutely fair. So, yeah, we're all about real opinions here. So, headline grabbing custard, that's not us. Righto, let's talk about the improving teams for the year, the top 8 teams, or top 8 betting, I guess, and teams that are going to jump out of their skin this year.
Yeah, well, firstly, I just wanted to mention that we're not David King here. We're not black and white. We're not going to declare things. We're going to say like what we like as teams that are going to improve and teams that we think that are value. So I've got 3 teams that I think are big improvers and value in the market. And the first one is St Kilda. So bear with me here, Scoot. We've got last year they lost 3 key players. They lost Stephen, who only played 7 matches. Bruce, who I think is slightly overrated, bit of a spud. and Acres. But their upside, they have Hanbury played 5 games last year. Roberton didn't play. Geary played 6 games. They bring in Hill, Ryder, Howard, Jones, Butler, King. They won 9 games. I looked at the injury list last night. They haven't got a single injury. They're $3 to make the 8. They're a team I can see huge improvement in.
$2.80 to make the 8. You might have got involved last night.
Yeah, they might have shortened a bit. Sorry.
Price, bit of grubbery there. Yeah, and the mail that I had last year was they had a lot of cultural problems and off-field problems. So to scrap 9 wins out of that season with all the head noise and stuff going on outside of that is a big effort. Have you got a mover for us, Ian?
I like the Hawks, but Cam's already told me that he doesn't like this. But I think there's a lot of upside to the Hawks with players coming in. Frost, Patton, Mitchell comes back in as well. Wingard and Scully another year under Clarkson. I think the Hawks are going to have a good year. Probably better ways to get with them throughout the year rather than taking the $1.90 to make the 8. But yeah, keep an eye out for the Hawks.
Who does Ian barrack for?
Yeah, are you serious?
I'm happy to declare that I barrack for the Hawks, but no, I do think they're going to have a good year.
I think it's just important FYI to the punter and the listener out there that 2 of the blokes in here are diehard Hawthorn supporters, which is repulsive enough to have 2 in the one room.
I'll give you
just use the information as you will.
Yeah, and if you go through Hawthorn's draw last year, their last 15 games, I thought they did a really good job to close out the year, and they beat West Coast in West Coast.
Beat a lot of good sides. Beat a lot of good sides last year, the Hawks.
I've spec'd them for the flag already, but the other team that I expect to improve out of sight, and I probably lean on more, would probably the Western Bulldogs. Am I sweet thinking the Western Bulldogs are going to be a challenger this year?
You are. You've jumped ahead to the premiership market, but the Dogs are one of the teams that I can see winning it.
Why is that?
I think because they finished the year well last year, and they get 2 key players that can play key position for them, and I think that's been a weakness of theirs.
Who are they?
Membry?
Keith and Bruce.
Oh, Bruce.
I don't rate Bruce that highly, but then Shackie's another year older as well, and Norton could be anything. He got a bit of an injury at the moment. But they have the midfield to do that. It's just whether or not they bring in those key position players. They finished the season really well last year. They did it a few years ago, so they can do it. I think they're 5th on the line of betting at around $14. So,
importantly, for the first time since I can remember, the Swans didn't make the 8 last year.
Yes,
bit of just a normal year for most clubs, but it's not normal if you follow the Swans.
Yeah,
$3.60 to make the 8. We've got the greatest player probably of the last 20 years up front
on one leg.
Yeah, still got a lot of lads covered. Is that not value? $3.60 to make the 8.
I did think this when I first looked at it myself, but they lost a few cattle last year. They're dropping away. Their midfield's getting older. They're just every year they're getting worse and worse. Their numbers, Kennedy, Parker, their numbers are getting worse every year. Buddy's getting older. They lost Jones. They lost McVeigh.
Reed, very injury prone. Reed.
Yeah.
I think Jones leaving will be a great thing for the way they move the football.
Okay. Oh, I thought he was an upside for the Saints, but we'll disagree on that one.
Butcher.
Okay, so let's get your top 2 or 3 improvers or top 8 sides or to make the 8, and then maybe 2 or 3 to miss the 8.
Yep. So as I said, the Saints was number 1. Port I like to improve big, and I think they've been a big mover at Top Sport. Their 11 wins last year. Wines played 12 games, Burton 16, Dixon 9. They'll get a lot more games out of those players, hopefully. Big one being Dixon. Melbourne, that's the other improver. Tom McDonald, Stephen May and Lever didn't play much footy last year. They pick up Tomlinson and Langdon. They're a very volatile side. It's hard to have much faith in them, but they should improve. Then the ones on potting for the year, Essendon, plenty of injuries early, and then Geelong. I think they're getting quite old, and they've lost Kelly. They have picked up Jack Stephen, but I don't think he's a like replacement. And then Brisbane, I'm not convinced that they're at that level for long enough. They got a tougher draw this year, no Hodge, and I wouldn't be taking the shorts for them to make the top 8.
It happens every year, doesn't it? A team that finishes like 9th or 10th with a really like progressive list flies into the top 4, and then the next year their draw is a lot tougher.
Yep.
And they crash back to earth.
Yep, that's one I could see, and I think even their round 1 against Hawthorn, it's going to be a really, really tough game for them.
I'll be cheering the Lions at the same time.
Okay, so we'll touch on the premiership winner. You've given Hawthorn a rough chance, as with the Dogs. Who do you think is going to be the team to beat in the premiership market?
Well, obviously the Tigers are the team to beat, but at $4 or what is it, $4.80 there at Top Sport, I'd be waiting for the season to start to see how they go. Like, they can't get a whole lot shorter than that, so I wouldn't be backing them at this stage. Like, Richmond and West Coast, they're clear favourites, but for me, I'm not going to be betting at this stage of the year on a team that's that short. You may as well wait a couple of rounds, have a look at them. I find it's better for me to bet on the premiership with about 3 or 4 weeks to go in the season. You can line up where they're going to finish. You can do the mathematics and work out who they're likely to play. Mm-hmm. You can work out what the prices should be, and that's where I sort of get the best angle.
Right, and let's NAB Rising Star. There's been a couple of big moves, and probably the best mover is Matthew Rovell, best back, $3.90 into $3.40 according to Top Sport.
Matty Rowell, yeah, up at the Gold Coast, number 1 draft pick, and I think the recruiters have got it 100% right with this kid. If you go back and look at the history of the Rising Star, you got 14 of the top 20 winners have been in the top 10 draft picks for the last 20 years. So there's pretty good data there. The recruiters are getting it right, and they're doing most of the heavy lifting for us in this particular market. And I think they're getting better and better. The last couple of years, Sam Walsh, number 1 last year. The year before, 8 was Stevenson. So there's some good data starting to come through, albeit a small sample. It's only been going for 20-odd years. But you look at the super coach points, you look at the fantasy stuff coming through from the Marsh. He leads them all. He's the bona fide favourite, and I'll be struggling to put you off him, to be honest, on that market. Not something that I'm overly keen on at the odds, but the guy's a favourite for a reason. He looks an absolute bull, and he looks to be the pick.
There's better $3 or $4 shots out there than sitting on that for a year.
Couldn't disagree with you.
Coleman.
The Coleman.
I think I found one here.
Okay, well...
I watched a bit of Fox Sport News recently.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go. Yeah,
Joshy Kennedy from the West Coast has had his first proper pre-season in a very long time. Surely $13 is huge overs. Jack Darling's $9.50. He's going to be getting all the feed. He's the big dog.
Definitely.
He should be shorter than Jack Darling, just by itself, yeah?
Can't disagree with you there, Jack. That's 100% spot on. You look at the shallow end of the pool there, you've got Cameron at $4, which I think is something that you got to just stay away from. I thought he was lucky to win it last year. Benny Brown, he just pipped him at the last moment, so lucky to win. And he's going to have issues this year with Finlayson and also Himmelberg up there at the front as well, so he's not going to get it all his own way up there. The other boys, Lynch, Benny Brown, Darling and Kennedy. I mean, Lynch, Ben Brown, 4s and 5s or 5s and 6s, and at the odds, I think you're 100% right, Jack. Kennedy is the pick, $13. That's what we're leaning to. There's a few other players a little bit deeper down in the market. Cam mentioned before about potentially Melbourne improving across the year. If that is to take place, Tom McDonald has to play a big part in that. He has to kick goals. So at $31, I think we've got him there at Top Sport. That's not a bad pick. And if the punters are looking for a little bit more value down the line, similar reason to Tom McDonald. I think if the Saints are to improve, Membry has to put a few through the big sticks. He finished 8th in the Coleman last year, and $67.
56 now. You've 56. Knocked it off last night again.
Okay, there you go.
Got to stop doing this before you come in.
and one, if the punters want something like a bit of a long shot, a John Longmire style performance. Johnny Longmire came from nowhere in 1990 to win the Coleman. If you're looking for a John Longmire style bet, Darcy Fogarty from Adelaide. Texas playing up the ground. Eddie Betts is gone. Jenkins is gone. I think you can get him for around $81. So
wow.
That's the Coleman wrap-up.
How's the Apprentice on debut? He's absolutely
up and about.
He's up and about. How's this?
Have you okayed all them? The master?
I tell you what, when you were putting up Josh Kennedy, he was like trying to, it was like a dog to a bone. Let me get it out.
Sorry.
Okay, I might sound like I'm death riding Melbourne, but if Tom McDonald wins the Coleman, I'll shout all you boys round 1 next year at the MCG, and we'll have a couple of jars all on me. I'll shout your day out round 1.
Just one more footy chat thing. I have a little theory that if you like a team to win the comp and you ain't seeing 1 or 2 of that teams in the Coleman medal betting early in the season, that it's not going to work. Like you look, there's 2 Richmond players right at the top of the market. There's 2 West Coast players top of the market. Jordan De Goey is the only guy from Collingwood near the top of the market. Buddy's the only guy in Sydney. Tom Hawkins, they're fragile teams. If if that bloke goes, who kicks their goals?
That's a good point.
Yeah, great point.
And it's been a massive problem for the Pies. They haven't been able to find consistent goal kickers. Their forward line hasn't been functioning. I think Myercheck could be their answer, but they want to use him all around the ground, so they don't want to stick him out of full forward. So
Freo's got Jesse Hogan up there. Last year, the start of the season, I thought Freo were really, really strong around the ground, but they couldn't convert that to a score.
Yep.
And it's probably going to happen again.
Yeah. Jesse Hogan's out with mental health at the moment.
I think the big upside there for Freo is probably Tabner, getting him back in the mix. He's their guy.
Pretty excited about the footy this year now. We've got the two boys around us.
Well, it's on our doorstep. It's 2 weeks away, so we're very excited. Big thanks to the guys from the Barefoot Punter. They're going to hang around for the next segment. We're going to talk NRL. All odds courtesy of topsport.com.au, and please gamble responsibly. It's Top Rope time. It's Tedeschi time. Nick Tedeschi joins us on the phone again. Welcome, Top Rope.
Oh, coming steamy in, Macho Man Randy Savage, like flying elbow drop, straight in.
Now, Nick, let's hear about your backstory before we get into an updated look on NRL betting. Where did your betting journey start?
My betting journey started with a bet on Empire Rose in the 1988 Melbourne Cup as a 6-year-old, and has continued on ever since, unabated. The promise of having my mum sign me up to a phone tab account if I went and got my first job inspired me to become a check at Coles, and it's been onwards and upwards ever since. Footy tab back in the day when sports betting was not as prevalent as it is now, and been on the rugby league train in particular ever since in terms of betting. First job in the industry was Sports Alive, then called Sports Acumen in Canberra in 2004, and since then kind of worked in and out or around wagering and sports. Went to work with a great bloke, Matty Elliott, at Punting Ace for quite a while, and then had a brief stint at the AFL, and then TomWaterhouse.com, William Hill, and now the New Zealand Tab.
Wow, so you've been around, and young Cam Dean, who's still in the studio, I think he cut his teeth at Sports Alive as well, Cam.
Certainly did. I think Top Rope, they call him arthritis. Because he's been in every joint.
So was he your boss, or were you his boss?
We'll parallel.
Yeah, okay.
Still are, Cam, that's right.
So enough of, I guess, the chit-chat. What's the latest with the NRL news, Nick? A little birdie's told me something about one of the opening games, but you're the expert, and I might chime in later.
Look, it's we're a week away. I guess all the worry now is team list, who's playing where, who's won the spots for jobs. News came out of Brisbane yesterday that looks like Jesse Arthurs has won a wing spot, which is going to have a bit of an impact on some try scorer markets. There was a bit of a boom for Xavier Coates to be top try scorer at about 80 to 1 this year. He's now looks like he's third in line for the job at best, so that's an issue there. There's been a bit of a boon for the Titans not to come last this year. They looked absolute morals, so there's plenty on. Manly full of injuries. They've got Melbourne first up, so there's plenty going on week one.
Yeah, I might sort of chime in there because I guess the mail that I've got is around the Melbourne Storm, and I know that you pushed them heavily last week, but a little birdie told me that Craig Bellamy's got an amazing record first up coming into round one, so he gets the troops ready to go nice and early, and there's a little bit of doubt over Manly's forwards, so they look heavily backed in the season's win line according to Top Sport. They've been 190 to 175 for the Storm over win lines at 14.5 there.
And that's an absolute moral. They've finished top 4 every year under Craig Bellamy, except for 2. One was the year they got kicked out. So and to finish top 4, you're going to have to win 15 games at a minimum, we would have thought. So, but Craig Bellamy, he's won 11 of his last 12 games at the Storm of the round one games, and covered 9 of them. So, look, the Storm, they get off to a flying start, and they just keep on rolling. They use that start to get to the top of the table early, usually flatten out a bit during the origin period where they've got a lot of representatives, and then just kick on and either win the minor premiership premiership, get themselves a second crack at the 70s as well. So
we've touched on Storm season win lines. Let's have a look at some other movers there. We've got money, according to topsport.com.au, for Dragons under 11.5 into $1.65. Thoughts there, Nick?
Yeah, the under is definitely the way to go. They've got pretty limited upside. They've had plenty of injuries to start the year. Paul McGregor's job's in quite a bit of doubt. If the Dragons do get off to a bad start, I can say not a pretty ordinary year. Would much rather be on the under 11.5.
Top rope. How's he kept his job? He's been under pressure for his job since I've remembered, 4 or 5 years, wouldn't it?
Oh, mate, how he got the job in the first place is beyond me. He's an ordinary coach. He's the worst combination of coach. He's a guy who really believes in what he believes in, but he's got no idea. He's super conservative.
Perhaps we could get in touch with topsport.com.au, Scooty, and get an over-under market on how many games he's going to coach this year.
How many will last? We can hit up Tristan. They love betting, so I'm sure he'll put that market up. Sharks, the point line's even moved, so that's a big move. 12.5 to 11.5 for Cronulla on the under.
Oh, come on, the Finn.
Yeah, there's been a lot of doubt. I'd rather be on the under 11.5. Look, I've got him marked for an 11-win season, but that was before it looks like Josh Morris was going to depart for salary cap reasons and join his brother Brett at the Roosters. Josh Dugan and Matt Moylan both already out. They've got a pretty young side. I think the Sharks will start the season well. I think they're a good chance in round 1 against South, but I consider them fading pretty heavily kind of come Origin time.
Okay, and what do you think about South's $17 into $10 to win the premiership there?
Just a few question marks about South for me. I think they've got the best backline in the comp. It's an all-representative backline. They've just added Latrell Mitchell. But he's got to play fullback now. He's unproven at fullback. He hardly looked super fit when he joined the Bunnies.
I was just going to say that, top rope. He looked like he'd been a very, very good paddock there in the Charity Shield on the weekend.
Look, he looked like he'd been in a good paddock, and he certainly hadn't come back into training by that stage. It's you wouldn't. He certainly hasn't got the Bart Cummings 10 miles under his legs yet, has he?
Yeah, and they're going to put him under the high baller stack. You'd think he closed his eyes a couple of times as he leapt to grab it there against the Dragons.
Don't like that.
Yep, absolutely agree. And I think their forward pack is there to be bullied. You know, they've lost Sam Burgess. He's a pretty big component of their side. But also lost George Burgess. Now George isn't great, but add a bit of mongrel. Their forward pack looks very, very shaky for mine. Not a lot of depth either. You know, South get a lot of their momentum going from the forward role. Damien Cook then scoots out dummy half, gives the backs plenty of time. I can see it unravelling a bit for South. I reckon they're a fringe 8 side, and I certainly wouldn't be taking the $10 about them. And to be honest, I don't think I'd be jumping into the 17.
Wow, that's shots fired from top rope. That's a top turnbuckle move if I've ever heard one. Now, speaking of some top shelf stuff, the Hall of Fame entry last week was absolutely sensational. Uncut Gems, Howard Ratner. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's gritty, it's gripping. I loved it. I completely loved it, and I think Kevin Garnett was absolutely brilliant in it as well. Top rope this week for the Hall of Fame entry. Who have you got for us? Have you got one out of left field? I'm going to keep you with the new ball after your first little wicket there, but hit us with something else.
Look, this is going to be an unpopular one. There's absolutely no doubt about this. This is not going to be popular. There's going to be outrage from this. But I'm going to put the Racing New South Wales stewards in there.
Oh.
For once doing something for the punter. Kobe Jennings, suspended, failing to ride out. A favourite, got nabbed on the line.
Shock horror. They went after one of the smaller riders in the state. Big effort.
Well, they did go after Nash.
Didn't they?
They got Nash.
They targeted one of the smaller players.
They got the big boy pants on.
Bit of PR from the boys there. We'll keep everything else under wraps though. Little Birdie told me there's been a fair bit going on down there in New South Wales, and a Little Birdie also told me that one of the senior Victorian stewards might be on his way out too, to do with New South Wales. So Little Birdie, that's a little bit
lot
controversial.
Of mail coming in. If you've got,
I have a big problem with anyone promoting stewards on this show, as a rule.
Well, it could be your first official warning, top rope. We might have to sack you from the Hall of Fame next week. But thanks very much, Nick. We'll chat to you soon.
Great chatting with you, boys.
Bye-bye. With 7 years of historic benchmark data and ratings, punting form is the number one choice for horse racing professionals. We love punting form. Now, Jack, let's talk a little bit about you. You're a professional yard watcher. you're a failed chippy, you're a hipster, and you're an average golfer. Tell us how you dropped the tools to becoming a yard watcher.
I was actually a competent chippy and builder. Thank you, Nicholas. I was a competent builder and chippy in Sydney, and I met a young lady who's now the mother of young Darcy, and I moved myself to Melbourne.
Brunswick.
And when no, it was actually Richmond. When you move yourself to another city and you're a builder, your business is word of mouth. I lost all of that, so okay. I had to go back on the tools literally, or have a crack at my passion, which is the punt and the ponies. And here we are now. We've survived. We've proven to ourselves and our clients and people like yourself that we've got enough ability to make it work, and we continue to grind and attempt to perfect the art.
And what do you look for in a horse when you're looking at horses in the yard?
Athletic, sensible in the brain, like not a toey, agitated animal. I want to see relaxed, smooth moving, clean in the coat, nice and fit, beautiful horse, ready to perform at its best.
And a lot of people say it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the fight in the dog.
Well, it's a great little segue you've just brought up there, Scooter, because we're going to talk to Scotty Brunton shortly, who has the Inevitable, which is a massive chance in the new market. It's a tiny little horse. It's a done deal. It's not a big horse, and it's got a huge motor. So the first time you see the Inevitable as a yard watcher, you're probably going to oppose. But then after it puts on that performance, you start to build a profile for that type of horse. So that I now know that the Inevitable is not going to blow me away physically.
Okay, so who'd be the best looking horse in the new market, you'd say?
Zutori's a really nice animal, a proper horse. Tefane is a really nice horse. Jai Trash can move. Loving Gabby has one of the bigger motors you'll ever see, like a big rump on her. Exceedance is a really nice colt. They'd be the sort of main horses. Bivouac's no star from the yard, but it's an athletic enough type with a big turn of foot. But yeah, if you were to buy one of these without knowing they could race, you'd probably be buying, I'd say, Exceedance.
Okay, I like Loving Gabby in the race. Who's your tip? And then we'll throw to Scotty.
I think Libertini and the Inevitable will be the most suited. They've got the wide draws. They make their own luck on speed. I think the Inevitable sit off Libertini, and it's going to look the winner at some point. Tefane is going to get a nice running behind that good speed, as is Satori, who loses Carr, who slaughtered it in the Oakley Plate, and now gets D-Lane. It's a big switch. And Exceedance will be sitting off that side. So I'm focusing on horses on the outside half of the straight. I hope they hold the outside fence there. I think Banco's an interesting sort of runner, and Loving Gabby, they'll be up the inside side of the track, but I want to be with the outside.
Fresh off the back of an absolute clinic, Launceston Cup Day, Jack and I were there on course to see it unfold. Scott Brunton joins us.
How are you, boys?
We're good. We're not going as good as you, but we're up and about. How do you handle the Launceston sort of setup? You seem to handle that track, which was a very unique operation. It was very sort of laney and on pace, and you seem to have it all figured out. Are you a track walker?
No, but Dave Perez and the old man and my father were there. He was over for the sale, so he's a pretty good track walker, the old boy. So I was a bit concerned driving up that the track had shit itself with the rain that it's had, but it actually held together very well, and Curator should be pat on the back. So it found the right spots. Yeah, Dad walked the track, put it hold up okay to the fence, and probably most people thought that it'd probably struggle, and we got the right way of it that day. You've
got the Inevitable first up off a 126-day break. Group 1 Newmarket down the straight. First up, last prep, Employ Road, and you put them away pretty convincingly. How are you feeling?
Oh, look, it's the Newmarket. It's a great race. It's a good field assembled for it. But look, we've focused it on our bloke. He seems great. We're just getting him ready to travel on the boat now, so he heads off shortly. We can't fold him. It's been a long-term plan to get him ready for this. We put a lot of heart into it. He's had a couple of good trials. It couldn't have been more impressive, we felt. And we're very excited going there, very hopeful. We think we've drawn a good barrier. We've got the right rider on. We had Craig Newitt booked for the horse, but unfortunately he was suspended, so he's unable to fulfil his duties. And Brett Preble was the one bloke that called up, so he got the nod. So that was fantastic.
From 13, you expect you to sit on the back of the Libertini there and hold the outside down the straight?
Look, I'd like to hope so. He has got a little bit of tactical speed himself, the horse, especially when he's fresh. But I love the way he sort of relaxes and sits behind the bridle, and he's got a really good. Well, he's got a devastating turn of foot. But I guess when you're up at this kind of grade, that's what you got to do to be able to compete. I hope he gets a great run, and if he does get the right run, I can assure you it'll be very hard to beat.
Now, you must have more money than the King after Launceston Cup Day. I think you must have had a lot of doubles and trebles. Have you got a winner out wide for the punters and the listeners for the rest of the weekend, Scotty? What have you got? A little bit of meat on the bone, mate.
You know, Jones, I'll let you in on a little secret. After Oaks Day, the Sunday leading into the Launceston Cup Day, I said, that's it, I'm not having a bet Cup Day, and I didn't have a bet.
Oh, no.
I'm a genius, yeah. So, very clever. Look, I'll tell you, I'm not a horse you should tip, but on Saturday I've got a horse called Reliable Magic going at the 2,400 metres. Jamie Carr rode him last start, sat behind the speed, had a real charmed run. I had the blinkers on him. And she said, pull the shades off and make sure he's not inside horses. And she said, wherever you go next start with him, he'll win. So,
Race 3 at Launceston.
Yes, David Perez is on, and it looks a winnable race for him.
Big thanks to Scotty Brunton there. So Race 3 Launceston on Saturday, number 4, Reliable Magic. We've got a brand new segment, Little Birdie, In the Know with Snow. Our man from the track, our man from the turf.
Snowy?
It's got a good ring to it.
How are you, big boy?
Doesn't it? I'm not too bad. Yourselves?
We're good. We're pretty excited to see sort of the chat from you off air is enormous. I want to see if you can sort of deliver it on air. Now, you've been around the traps at Caulfield. You've got your connections there. You've also got a couple of lines in there at Flemington. Big weekend of group racing.
Everywhere, actually, Jack.
What's the go this weekend?
Well, I've been around. I've been out to Caulfield, chatted to the boys up there, and I've also wandered out to Flemington. Looks like Flemington might be the go this weekend.
Where are we headed? Which race?
Race 5, the Little Birdies told me third up, Wild Planet number 10.
Currently $2.70 at topsport.com.au. Gamble responsibly.
What do you know about Wild Planet, Snowy?
A nice Super Saturday sting from the Hawks camp, third up. Save the pennies till race 5, I've been told, and bet up.
Wow, so it's nice and well found in the market. Are you just going to leave us with one?
Well, it's been very good the first 2 runs. Third up, definitely ready to peak. And I was just heard the little chat from Scott, and I've heard from over at the Tasman, the inevitable is flying. So that was the other each-way chance to put into everything in the exotics.
Love it. You're a good man. We look forward to having you on each and every week. You keep working hard for us, and we'll keep working hard for you.
Let's hope in the know if the snow can take off, and he'll be back next Thursday for Sting for the listeners again.
Thanks, Snowman.
See you, brother.
Our next guest is Mark Rhoden. He's a professional punter. He's been around the game for about 15 to 20 years, and we're going to talk Randwick Guineas up in North Korea there.
How are you, Mark?
Good, Jack. Nice to talk to you. How you doing?
Very good. When we want to bet in Sydney, I come to you and always have. Big meeting there at Randwick on Saturday. We've currently got a soft 5, a couple of showers. How do you expect the track to end up?
The curator is saying that he's expecting no worse than 7 and hoping for a 6, and that's kind of what I'm working off. With a 3-metre rail, you could expect them to get off the fence in the straight, but with the southerly wind, being fence and run won't be a problem. So you're basically going to get a fairish track as long as you can get to the middle in the straight. So it should give most horses their chance.
The big race on Saturday is the Randwick Guineas. What are you thinking?
Well, I've started my approach to it by basically putting the pen through microphone. He had his chance to beat a similar field in the Hobartville last time, coming off that strange win at Caulfield, where he got outpaced, but was very good in the last 50 metres and got over the top of them. He was backed into about a 220 favourite on the strength of that in the Hobartville last time. Got a very easy lead and was frankly disappointing. And so despite that SP profile, I wouldn't really want to back him to beat the horses that beat him, Brandenburg and Reloaded, that day. And even the horses he finished in front of, such as Castelvecchio and Shadow Hero. So he's making the market a bit. He's third favourite, and I think I've got him priced right out. I'm leaning to those last 2 I mentioned, Castelvecchio and Shadow Hero. They're the best horses in the race on what we've seen over their careers so far. Shadow Hero did enough first up. He second up last time in the gloaming, admittedly at 1800. He absolutely flew, one by about 3.5 lengths, but there's a huge improvement first up to second up. Castelvecchio, second up last time, was totally unsuited in the Golden Rose, so you can sort of forget that. Last time he raced at the Randwick Mile, though he walked in the Champagne Stakes as a 2-year-old. They're the first and second favourites in the market, but I think they're both overs. I've got them well clear of the rest, so I'm looking to back both.
Beautiful. I think Shadow Hero is a really interesting prospect. It SP'd real short there in the good race down here and just sort of didn't get the trip. So
no, he had an awful run. I mean, Warning's an interesting run in this too. I mean, he hit the line very nicely over in that same race, the Hobartville first up, but he's obviously on the Derby prep. You know, doesn't really need to be peaking yet, but he's obviously ticking over very well. But yeah, Shadow Hero had a big SP over him that day in the Derby.
100%. Beautiful. Have you got anything else for us at Randwick on Saturday?
Yeah, I do. I just finished looking actually at the what is it? The not the challenge, the sprint, the Canterbury Stakes. Sorry, over 1,300 metres, race 5.
Yep.
Standout Sabatiano and Alizé. I'm very keen on Sabatiano. Dominated a mare's race, good mare's race first up. Bit more depth here, admittedly, and Standout is a worry, but she's proven on the softish conditions, Standout's not. And I think Alizé is also way too short. She won last start, but the time was only ordinary. I think she passed
trial, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was a stupid pace. She won. Dreamforce and Happy Clapper both failed last week as well. The form just looks ordinary to me. Standout's the improver, but he's short enough. Sabatiano's got the figures, got the soft track form now after last start, and in a small field, getting around 340, I think is a good bet.
Beautiful. Thanks, Mark. His best is race 5, number 5, Sabatiano, and he's keen to back Castelvecchio and Shadow Hero in the Randwick Guineas. Cheers.
Welcome back to Little Birdie. It's time to talk golf, and that means Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
How are you, mate?
Fantastic, mate. Arnold Palmer Invitational this week. What do you got for us?
Righto. So let's. I've jumped on Top Sport, had a little bit of a look at the market. There's a couple of good little match bets that I'm pretty keen on. I think Bryson and Rory. I've worked out that we've got a 9.7% market edge on backing Bryson to beat Rory. I can't get over the fact that Rory's the price he is. Considering that, you know, his statistics, it's very important to hit a lot of fairways this week, and he's about 160th in fairways hit this year, so he's 172nd to be exact. So I think I could see Rory struggling a little bit because with the Bermuda grass mixed with the rye, the ball's going to nestle to the bottom, and if he's not hitting a lot of fairways, Rory's going to find it very difficult to compete this week. So I think we've got a little bit of a market edge there. You can get 279 on Bryson in a match bet against Rory. I think that's value at the moment. I've got Reed to beat, as much as it pains me to say it, I've got Patrick Reed to beat Brooks. Brooks is way out of form at the moment. Look, he's just not there. He tends to turn up for the majors, Brooks, but at the moment he's not even close this season. So I've got a 24% market edge on backing Reed against Brooks. And another very, very good bet, I think, is Abraham Answer to beat Victor Hovland. So Abraham's in very good form at the moment. He's pretty hot. And I think Abraham to beat Hovland is a really good bet. I've got that at a 35% market edge this week. So,
Big Daddy, am I allowed to have Abraham Answer to win the whole tournament?
No, I wouldn't go that far, Dicko. You know, it's like a horse race with 150 runners. I think you could bet on Abraham to win straight up. I just think it's really good value for Answer to beat Hovland in a match bet.
And a one-player speculator in the tournament outright. You're taking on Rory McIlroy at 6-1 or 5-1 there. Who's your best fancy?
Well, I'm happy to bet around. Rory. You've got to have a look at someone that drives the ball fairly straight around that course. Bryson, he's playing well, but Bryson's about 120th in driving accuracy. So I think, Adam Scott's even struggling off the tee. Someone like Tommy Fleetwood could pop up this week. I don't do a lot of outright betting from the outset. I tend to do some outright betting after sort of 2 rounds. I think there's still some good value there, and we can sort of have a look at who's sort of handling the course well. But I'm happy to oppose Rory this week. I know everyone's sort of keen on him, but I'm happy to risk him.
Beautiful, Big Daddy. I love your work. I appreciate everything you do. We'll get you on Twitter, and you might update the punter and the dribbler after the first 2 rounds there on the Little Birdie pod at Twitter. Thanks, mate. Bye.
Righto, mate. See you guys.
Been a big show, Jack. Much better for the run from first up. And
We've improved dramatically second up, I think, and I'm looking forward to next week when we can possibly get here a little bit earlier again and be even more prepared. Hopefully we have a few winners this weekend. I reckon Big Daddy sounds very astute what he's offered up. Would you not agree?
Yeah, and I think we're a lucky podcast early. You know, we got the Vicks home last week. Troy Little tipped Hardaway winning.
Oh, let's not talk about that.
What a sick beat that is. That was probably bad beat of the week. India were $5 into evens, and if it's washed out, they go straight through to the final against South Africa. So Matty Barker's got his eye in there. And then we've created a Group 1 winner. Ryan Maloney comes on the show, and look out, Group 1. So Scotty Brunton, get ready to party, big boy.
He knows how to party. He'll roll off a couple of darts and get it done.
That's it for us. We'll see you next week on Little Birdie.